And this is the first time any diocese anywhere had voted in favor of, what was it, of blessing same-sex unions?
Yeah,
okay.
that is correct. Now, the bishop offered clergy in this diocese a conscience clause. That is, that if it's against your conscience, you won't be forced to bless same-sex unions. However, our view is this is not a conscience issue. This is a clear scriptural teaching. It's unloving, it is unfaithful for us to do this, and it's more significant than a conscience issue. And in our parish, the trustees were very concerned that while conscience might protect one generation, it doesn't protect us down the track in the future. So
What specifically is the conscience clause?
Well, yes.
What does it say?
In the initial discussions, we were enabled to sign the conscience clause, which meant that we didn't have to bless same-sex unions, but we would have to refer same-sex couples that came to us to parishes that would bless same-sex unions.
So in a sense, that conscience clause doesn't allow you really to act according to your conscience, but what it does is it endorses the Church's position.
Yes, it
makes you then complicit
Yes.
in the corruption of doctrine.
That's my understanding, yeah.
So how did the global Church react to this vote then in 2002?
That's a very good question. In 2002, the Global South Steering Committee sent 2 primates and a number of bishops into the Diocese of New Westminster to see what was going on. They interviewed the parishes that had walked out. They had an interview with the bishop and a number of people representing the diocese. And they recommended alternative episcopal oversight, that we be given a different bishop with jurisdiction, and they called for a moratorium on the blessing of same-sex unions. The Canadian House of Bishops requested that we enter a mediated process, which we did. When the mediated process failed, early in 2003, Bishop Buckle, as he was then, the Bishop of the Yukon, offered episcopal oversight to the parishes in the Diocese of New Westminster. The parishes voted to receive his oversight, but the Bishop of the diocese reacted by bringing charges to bear against Bishop Buckle and against the parishes, and so that process was stopped.
Even though Bishop Buckle and this whole process was in effect acting on the recommendations of the international body of
Correct.
the primates?
Correct.
Okay, so what happened after that?
Well, this is quite complicated, but in 2003, the Episcopal Church in the United States confirmed the consecration of an actively homosexual man as Bishop of the Diocese of New Hampshire. In response to that, the primates called an emergency meeting with the Archbishop of Canterbury in 2003. And at that meeting in October 2003, the primates said that this decision tears the fabric of the communion. They mentioned both Canada and the United States, and they said, we will not be able to continue in fellowship with Canada and the United States if you continue in that direction. And the primates also called for adequate protection for parishes on the ground which don't want to go that direction. And they also set in process a task force to report back to them on what really is going on. And that task force came up with what's called the Windsor Report in 2004. In 2004, the Windsor Report was released. It was chaired by Archbishop Eames, who was the Primus of Ireland at the time, and it was called for by the primates, and it was written for the primates, who then met in 2005. And what the Windsor Report basically said was that these decisions create such disunity that they call for the Canadian and for the US churches to turn away. They also called for people to stop crossing boundaries and offering oversight over jurisdictional boundaries. But their deeper warning comes in the final paragraph, where they say that if the Canadian and American churches continue in this direction, they will walk apart from the rest of the communion. And they called for the setting up of a covenant. So in 2005...
What was the covenant?
The covenant is to more clearly express what it means for different provinces to be interdependent. What are our obligations to each other? What does it mean to be truly Anglican? What does it mean to hold the same faith? And that covenant work group is still working right now. The Windsor Report came to the primates meeting in early 2005. At that primates meeting, the primates called for three things. They called for the United States and Canada to withdraw their participation from the instruments of unity. They called for a moratorium on the blessing of same-sex unions. And they called for protection for parishes, for adequate protection for parishes like ours who are in serious theological disagreement with their diocese.
So this is now in 2005, this is the third warning or request then that they cease,
Right.
that they put a moratorium on blessing same-sex marriages.
Correct, correct. And the international body set up a panel called the Panel of Reference. One of the things about being Anglican is you've got to learn all the acronyms. The Panel of Reference was an international group that sent people to some of the hotspots, Florida, South Florida, Connecticut, the Diocese of New Westminster, to report back to the primates with regard to what they recommend as the way forward. I would have to say that the report of the Panel of Reference is palliative. It does not offer the protection that has been called for by the primates. And there are a number of primates, when it came out in 2006, said precisely that. At the same time, there have been a number of attempts by the Canadian House of Bishops to bring a solution to the crisis in the Diocese of New Westminster.
So far it seems that the diocese has rejected all calls by the International Church.
Yes, they did respond by saying we will obey the moratorium in the sense of not having any other parishes bless same-sex unions except the ones that we already have blessing same-sex unions, which is not really a moratorium.
No, I understand.
Let me just talk now about what the House of Bishops in Canada have done. At the end of 2003, the Canadian House of Bishops asked Bishop Matthews to investigate this issue. And Bishop Matthews went across the country with a panel looking at solutions for the Diocese of New Westminster and for other dioceses that were going to go ahead and do this. And her report came to the House of Bishops in 2004, early 2004, and the House of Bishops didn't even talk about it.